He drops out after a catastrophic debate performance, and they set Kamala Harris up to fail. That was a 3-month campaign, and she was supposed to introduce herself to the American people. No wonder people were Googling, did Joe Biden drop out? And so...
No. No. You're saying 3 months wasn't long enough?
It was too long. It was long enough.
It was long enough.
If they had a primary...
Sure, it's not that they didn't have time to introduce. They met someone and didn't like them.
If they had a primary, they wouldn't have picked her. And if they had, she would have been able to rough out those edges that then she basically has to start from scratch with a campaign team she didn't hire that didn't like her, right? It was his team.
In this clip, we've got Bill Maher. Yeah, that Bill Maher, the guy who usually hugs the left like it's a life raft. Absolutely demolishing a couple of ultra-woke guests on real time. And when even Maher is throwing his hands up like, all right, this is insane, you know the narrative is cracking. Here's where it gets delicious. The same people who spent years calling conservatives conspiracy nuts are now out here peddling their own wild theories about election fraud. You can't script irony like this. Conservatives have been asking for basics, voter ID, transparency, and got labeled fascists. Now the left is crying foul, spinning tales of secret Trump plots. The same Trump they said was too dumb to spell fraud is now suddenly a shadowy puppet master. Please, back to Maher. He doesn't just disagree, he torches their logic. This isn't a debate. It's a demolition. They show up with their tired slogans and echo chamber sound bites. Maher shuts it down, calls out the double standards, exposes the delusion, and says the stuff most people are too scared to whisper. Let's dive in. The moment Bill Maher flips the script and wrecks woke logic. Live, raw, and unfiltered.
I also think everything the candidates, especially the Democrats, do to get voters annoys them. The constant texting. Did you get the texts like from Tim Walz every 5 minutes? And the, like always begging for money and knocking on doors. We've got people knocking on doors. People don't want knocking on your door. Who in this day and age wants someone knocking on? Kids don't even like it when a phone call? That's like too much of a invasion of their privacy, which they don't care about. Who might emerge as the strongest Democratic opposition leader in the next Trump era? Oh, well, that's a good question. I mean, like Adam Schiff, he won, right? Big. And
he won, but I like Wes Moore.
Wes Moore's fantastic. He's in Maryland.
Yep.
But who's going to be the one? Gavin Newsom we have here in this state. He's already like called the legislature to. Trump hasn't done anything yet, but I understand the.
This was the problem. There was a 2014 study that showed that Fortune 500 companies were more likely to pick a female CEO if the company was struggling, basically setting women up for the big job, but to also fail. If they did well, fine. But if they failed, like, look, we have a female CEO while failing. And that's what I feel like they did to Kamala Harris. When Biden refused to step aside and not run again, he was supposed to be that bridge. He backed off on that promise due to arrogance. And then...
Let's break this down, because the logic here is off the rails. There's this bizarre claim floating around that the Democrats were somehow forced to make Kamala Harris their pick. Forced by who, exactly? The ghost of identity politics. The DNC had options. They chose Kamala. So if these people running the party are supposed to be political masterminds, why would they back someone they thought couldn't win? It makes zero sense. If Kamala was such a guaranteed flop, wouldn't you go with someone who could actually fire up voters, or at least not drag the whole ticket down? But no, we're supposed to believe they just knowingly sabotaged themselves. That's not logic. That's fiction. Now let's talk about this recycled talking point. Fortune 500 companies only pick women CEOs when the company's about to crash. Even if there's a kernel of truth in the stat, maybe it's not some sinister setup. Maybe after years of being steered into the ditch by mediocre men, the board finally says, screw it, let's try something different. Bringing in a woman at that stage isn't sabotage, it's desperation. A last-ditch move to keep the ship from sinking. But of course, the woke crowd twist it into some grand conspiracy at make win and fail. It's just more evidence that this narrative is built on sand. Instead of facing hard truths about leadership and accountability, they dive headfirst into victimhood fantasies. It's not smart, it's not honest, and it sure as hell isn't reality. But hey, if your worldview is glued together with identity politics, you've got to find oppression everywhere, even if you have to invent it.
I think that is a very high degree of difficulty put on anybody. And I do not think she is the perfect candidate. I tend to agree with Sarah that probably in a fully litigated primary, she probably would not have been the Democratic nominee, but we'll never know that. But I will tell you that, there's never been anybody who's had the difficulty of that situation, elevated that late in the campaign. Why?
Democrat would have needed to run away from
Bill,
the
I don't know
Biden
if you know this, but the Vice President of the United States is basically shoved in a broom closet for 3.5 years.
I know.
You couldn't.
She was more popular in there.
Yes, well.
I mean, this idea that in a mass media age, that 107 days is not long enough to know somebody.
You are way overestimating the American people in terms of what their ability. No. You have someone like Donald Trump has become a universally known, understood, loved by some, hated by others over the course of being omnipresent for 8 years.
Okay.
Barack Obama becomes president of the United States after running for 2 years as president, runs a 50-state primary, is on television, does dozens of Democratic debates.
The debate? Yeah, it blew up fast. No shock there. No common ground, just pure escalation. And right on cue, Bill Maher stepped in and schooled his guest with sharp takes and zero hesitation. He didn't just hold his ground, he owned it. The guest? Outmatched and outplayed. This one's a must-watch. And if you're into unapologetic breakdowns and real talk, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Plenty more heat coming your way. Now, let's dive back into the chaos.
Okay, but I don't know if you ever watched this show, but I had Michael Douglas on this week.
Yeah.
At the top, we were talking about this, and he made a very good point that every other country in the world can do it in months, sometimes weeks. Why can every other country do it in that short a period of time? Are they all so much brighter than America? I don't think so.
Well,
mostly parliamentary. I mean, there's literal reasons, right? We don't have a parliamentary system.
I mean,
we also have a First Amendment. We don't make people campaign this whole time. The American people want to give them $20, and so they can afford it. I mean, small dollar donors are arguably the worst thing that's happened to our politics, as it turned out.
It's a small dollar donor didn't make $20 billion. No,
a lot of it.
Some of it, yeah.
And it represents about 2% of our country.
There's a few special PACs in there that saw $100 million plus.
Those are bad too.
I think you can believe that you could have shorter elections in America, but it's not like we don't know. In Britain, for instance, when you have a short election, it's not like you don't know who the leader of the party is for months and years before that.
But you're either the person who's Googling the day before, did Biden drop out, or in a week. Did anyone in this audience not know enough about Kamala Harris pretty much after a week to make a decision? No. Yeah, people.
How are you going to enforce that?
We just get sicker of them.
What? So
how are you going to tell people they can't talk about politics?
What?
How with free speech that I know you love?
Yeah.
How are you going to limit people's ability to run for office?
I'm not limiting them.
Bill Maher was on fire in this episode of Real Time. I don't always agree with him, but this time, he nailed it. His fix for American politics was brutally simple. Kill lobbyists. Cut off third-party money. Only pay politicians their government salary. No side deals. No corruption cover. Sounds clean, but we all know the game. Backdoor favors, under-the-table deals. Corruption always finds a way. What really made the episode a hit? Maher wrecked 2 woke guests. Don't even care who they were. Their takes were wild. Maher cut through it all. Calm, surgical, no drama, just facts. So what do you think? Was he right to call them out? And is there any hope left for this system? Drop a comment, sub, all that. More heat coming.